And let's start in Ukraine, where we're getting some really mixed messages, I think, about what's going on in Ukraine. Something nuanced, actually, is kind of bubbling up in the NATO-led war against Russia. Up until now, we've had most of the fighting has been taking place in Ukraine, right?
Yes.
That was the plan all along, of course, which is that we poke the bear, NATO pokes the bear. They've done this since the 2014 Minsk agreements, of course, collapsed, and Ukraine gets totally destroyed. That's been the plan all along. And Western imperial powers move in using the enrichment of the military-industrial complex. And it doesn't go much deeper than that, right? That's all it is. On the surface, that's how it plays out. It plays out just like in Afghanistan, right? That's exactly how it plays out.
Well, you're saying that from
Yes.
your opinion, yes.
Right. And so here's what happens. Ukraine gets totally destroyed, right? Noam Chomsky says this. This is exactly what...
Well, this is what's happening,
This
right?
is going to happen,
And
yeah.
so there are world leaders who all have a vested interest in the way this plays out. And it does seem like there are many world powers. It was leaked just last week that Boris Johnson... Bojo, when he was in Ukraine, that he purposely pushed Zelensky away from peace talks with Russia because the West doesn't mind if Ukraine gets torn apart.
No, they don't.
And that seems to be what continues to happen.
Because that plan, of course, is the extension of Western imperial powers and the enrichment of the military-industrial complex. Like, that's the story, right? And because the United States is funding NATO largely, and the EU is putting up like $500 million, and the United States puts up $54 billion, that's what's happening here. And it doesn't go much deeper than that. So we're going to use your country, destroy it to further our goals. So for all of the bombing and the fighting that has happened in Ukraine, right, that's what's happening. It's all been happening in the country of Ukraine at this point. However, there have been a few explosions. They made it across the border into the Russian territory. But for the most part, it's been all Ukraine, right? That cities are being destroyed. That's what's happening. Well, now we have this headline from Politico today, which is actually pretty surprising. Let me pull up my assets here. Here we go. Here's the headline from Politico today. Biden resists Ukrainian demands for long-range rocket launchers. So what is going on here? Well, it's very interesting if you kind of dive into what's actually happening here. These are the long-range missiles and rocket launchers that can move and evade Russian tanks. They can move, they can set up. These are the M70 tanks. And these can move. They're very rapid, and they can fire off multiple missiles all at one time, and then move. They can pop up, move, fire, move, and keep moving. And that's how they continue to roll, right? So they can get these things up there, they can fire off, and they can go.
How long range are we talking?
They can go very long, and that's the issue here, right? This is what Biden is worried about.
Like longer than Ukraine.
Longer than Ukraine. Well, not longer than Ukraine, but if you're in the eastern section or even not in the eastern section in the Donbass region and you want to fire missiles into Russia, these are the perfect vehicles to do it, right? So this is the problem. And so now Kyle Anzalone says, an unnamed White House official cited by Politico also indicated that Biden's reluctance to send the M270 did not mean a final decision had been made, stating that Washington and Kyiv are in active discussions about this weapon. So the bottom line is, Zelensky wants these weapons. They want these weapons because they want to start attacking inside of Russia. And I have to, I really was thinking about this today. As you look at the data, you listen to what Zelensky had said before, you listen to Zelensky pushing or at least saying that he was open to peace talks, and then the EU and NATO rushes in and says, no peace. We're not open to that. Stop talking about peace. Like it's almost like he's calling their bluff. Send us these weapons because we need to now start attacking Russia. Send them to us. Like, what are you doing? Why are you dragging your feet? And President Biden saying, I'm not so sure I want to send those just yet because we're worried about escalating this war.
Meanwhile, a Ukrainian MP was on Nigel Farage last night saying, actually, peace talks are still on the table with Russia. We do not intend to attack inside Moscow or attack Vladimir Putin at all. We just want him to leave. So these are very conflicting messages.
Yeah.
And are those are U.S.-made machines? Because they look very Russian, don't they, to you?
Yeah. No, these are U.S.-made M270s, and these are some of the elite tactical anti-aircraft.
I've seen those in any, you know what I mean? Like we see all these vehicles in all these parades, and I've never seen those before.
Well, you,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
obviously don't get the U.S. military Sears catalog that all the other world leaders seem to get.
Yeah, that you can just order right. You can order right from that catalog. I mean, that's where I get all of my, like, I go down to Service Merchandise and I get my stuff here. Here's it firing. Here's what it looks like when it fires off. And of course they want these. Now, what's interesting is Victoria Nuland has come out. Now, you remember Victoria Nuland, of course, who was the lackey for the Biden administration, or for the Obama administration, who was responsible for basically helping to set up the puppet regime inside of Ukraine. And then she's the one that confirmed the biolabs in Ukraine.
Yes.
She came out and said, well, I don't know what the concern is from Zelensky. Like, we've already sent these.
Okay.
Like, we've already sent these weapons. So you already have these. But wait a minute, President Biden saying, we're not yet ready to send something like this because this could escalate a war. Now sending these, which could fire up to ridiculous lengths. I mean, we're talking like 30, 40, 50 miles into Russia in hitting Russian targets inside of inside of Mother Russia. That's a World War III.
But we would never get a real inventory list about what we have sent and what we haven't, right? Because they would call that a violation of national security. We can't tell Russia, like, hey, we sent 8 bombs and 5 of these and 5 of these, and then they would just know how to match or usurp. So, of course, we're not going to get any real accounting for that. Meanwhile, Rand Paul is still sort of digging his feet in and saying, well, I want at least some kind of accounting of where the money goes. So the Senate still has not passed a package to send any further funds, even though that seems to be a foregone conclusion, I would say.
Just think about that for a second. $54 billion. And today we got word that they're going to send an additional $250 million just for food aid to Ukraine.
Yes.
Food aid, because we don't have, and by the way, they're voting on, just think about this for a second. $28 million they're voting on for baby formula in the United States. And over 100, at the time I was watching the vote live this afternoon, 128 Republicans voted against it. So you are going to vote for $250 million additional dollars in Ukrainian food aid to Ukraine, but you'll vote against baby formula for the United States.
Well, then people aren't even taking into consideration all the money.
Wait, you're talking about evoking the Defense Production Act for baby food. That was voted upon?
Yeah, they're voting it this afternoon. I was watching the vote live.
I thought that was done by executive order.
No, I mean, they're voting on this additional $28 million on the House floor, and you had 128 Republicans. I was watching it live.
For baby food production.
For baby food production.
No, okay. So the defense, because that news, I just want to make sure we have that accurately. The Defense Production Act, which says that in pursuit of this one good, right, any supply chain manufacturers can jump the line to get what they need. So be it whatever goes into baby formula. By the way, I've been tagged on long chains about this, like what you should feed your baby if you can't get store-bought formula, and I do not know. But it says that these manufacturers can sort of jump the line in the supply chain, and that is happening.
Oh, we just got breaking news, like literally in real time about these exact weapons here. So we've been talking about these. This just broke that Biden has now reversed course on this. And he does plan to send these long-range rockets to Ukraine.
So let me just add a little context, because last fall in 2021, the United States confirmed that Russia also has long-range weapons up the North Coast. And, they've sort of proven that they are capable of reaching American shores. By North Coast, I mean... You know what I mean? Let me think of it while you talk.
Well, I mean, I'm just outraged. I mean, guys, we keep talking around this idea of World War III. This is World War III. This is NATO getting long-range weapons to attack inside Russia. This is something that President Biden promised us wouldn't happen. That he said, make no mistake about it. He said, make no mistake, if we send tanks, if we send aircraft, if we send boots on the ground into Ukraine, that's World War III. He told us. He said, you can't kid a kidder.
And what I was going to say is, like, we're not the only ones sending them stuff. They're getting stuff from all over the world, money and food and weapons and everything. It's coming from everywhere.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so this is the proxy war that they wanted. I mean, this is what NATO wanted. This is this long-term extension of total destruction of Ukraine. But now they're going to set up bases there. They're going to make sure that we have these long-range weapons in there to start attacking targets inside of Russia. And then what next? I mean, Draw your own conclusions from this point now, but they're going to lie to you about it. And I love this little dance. Like literally within an afternoon, we go from this. He's resisting because it's going to escalate. What changed? Like literally, what changed from this early this morning? He resists demands for these long range rockets because he's worried about escalating.
I mean, cynically speaking,
To this,
it was a perfunctory resistance then. Right.
bingo.
Yeah. There's probably
Bingo.
also a phone
She's
call
learning.
from some defense contractor that pushed his decision a little bit.
But again,
got these
it
sitting there getting
seems
mothballed.
so antithetical to national security to sort of talk publicly about weapon stocks and which specific ones. It seems like more of an intimidation tactic.
For who? Intimidating for who?
To intimidate Russia, like, hey, we weren't going to send them, but you made me mad. I said
Well,
I'd count to 3, and I got to 3, so now I'm going to
It's
send
military
these.
support porn is what it is. Like that's why they talk about the stuff because they want people like, hey, look how awesome our military is, and like, yeah, we can give you some of these. We got some of these just lying around. That's all it is. It like drums up support.
And we heard this, we heard from the weapons and the defense contractors that said, look, we're going to run out of these things. They were called to Washington, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin. They were all called to Washington about a week and a half ago to 2 weeks ago. And they said, we need you to ramp up production. We're going to take the stocks that we have now in Washington. We're sending them to Ukraine. We need you to ramp up production. Then President Biden flies to Lockheed Martin, does his little dog and pony show at Lockheed Martin, like a full-on infomercial for Lockheed Martin and Javelin missiles and everything else. Make more of these, because we're about to pass this $54 billion, this $40 billion extension bill, and we need these things fast.
Well, also, the Defense Production Act is in effect for baby food, but also for weapons.
Right.
It has been for a few days now.
Of course. So it's going to continue. I mean, it's not like it's going away. It's going
Yes.
to continue. And because when you turn off like emergency use authorization, you never turn those things off. Like we're in a war. We're in a war on terror. We're in a war on drugs. We're in a constant war. So you never turn those things off. Like once you put those things in place,
Well,
they never get
Congress
pulled
still
back.
has not declared when the Iraq war ended.
No,
That's
has it?
open-ended.
I don't know. Did you get a memo? Did it actually end?
Good question.
I don't think we sunset anything. There's like we have a Congress without sunsets. There's just nothing ever stops. Once
Well,
it's there, it's there.
It's like living in Norway. They
There-
don't ever have a sunset.
There is a purpose to doing something like that. It's when you pay out benefits to soldiers who were in combat zones, they get sort of extra pay in their retirement, and you have to have served within these timeframes. So there is a bookend around the Vietnam War. There is a bookend around World War II. There is no bookend around the Iraq War even still,
You mean
and
that
I'm not
speech?
sure why.
The speech he made on the Navy cruiser wasn't enough that say we won.
Oh, mission accomplished?
But
Yeah.
that was the wrong president.
Yeah, sorry.
You're
that doesn't
talking
count.
about W.
No, that doesn't count.
It's Daddy that started the war under his administration.
Thank you so much for subscribing to our channel. We've been banned, we've been blocked, we've been censored. That's why we started our own website to stay connected with you for free.
That's right. So head on over to redacted.inc and make sure you're connected with us. You can sign up again at redacted.inc, not .com.